Dr. Xavier Chen, sorry. Normally, we would stop in China to meet Xavier Chen, the president of the Beijing Energy Club, a high-level forum and think tank on Chinese and global energy issues. However, Dr. Xavier Chen is currently corona stuck in Thailand. Maybe not the worst place to be, though. And from where he sits, the world of energy looks a bit different from the typical European position. Now, he knows both positions well, being an experienced professional both in Chinese and in global energy industry, with more than 30 years on his CV. So I'm going to leave to him to elaborate and to explain why he thinks fossil fuels will be around and is in use as long as there are humans on Earth. And you can, of course, challenge him through Slido with the same code as we've had so far, 41647. So calling up Thailand, I know you're there already. Xavier Chen, the digital floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Ruth, dear friends. Part of my experience was Norway related because I was head of Equinor for China office during almost 5 years. So I know all the innovation discussions about the future of fossil fuel. So looking from Asia, I would say, the answer to the question is very simple. Yes, fossil fuel has a future. Let me show you with 2 slides to illustrate my point. Next slide, please. So where are we today? If we use the BP statistical review of world energy last year, we see that the fossil fuels today account for almost 85%. Non-fossil fuels, including nuclear, hydro, solar, wind, geothermal, they account for 15.3%. So the world is still dominated by fossil fuel. And then on the right chart, you can see that the share of non-fossil fuels from 1980 to 2018 grew, from 9.4% to 15.3%. So over 38 years, only 6.9% growth, averaging every year a little bit further, 0.18% a year. So very slow, but the good news is that the acceleration is happening. So in last 8 years, starting from 2010, the growth rate was to 0.28%, so a little bit faster. So that's good news. Let me show you, the point that we need to decarbonize, but these non-fossil fuels each has its problems. Do you want to have nuclear power in your backyard? Nuclear power has safety concerns, and most importantly, the radioactivity issue. When a nuclear power retired, and when the nuclear power plant is retired, and there is no solution yet how to treat the radioactive waste. Hydropower is clean, but in many parts of the world, hydropower also causes ecological concerns. Solar, wind, geothermal are clean, yet solar power is intermittent, and wind is also intermittent. And furthermore, solar and wind, their energy density is not very high. So, and you have also visual impacts for both solar and wind projects. So my point here is that even non-fossil fuels, no fuel is perfect fuel. Every fuel has its problems and limitations. So next slide, please. So this second slide shows that replacing oil is not an easy task. Look at the left chart. where oil is consumed, 22% of oil is consumed in passenger cars. Trucks consume more, trucks and buses consume more oil than cars. And then you have aviation, shipping, railways, power generation, buildings for heating, industrial for driving forces, and also petrochemicals. They consume majority part of oil. And then petrochemicals are very, very important. Statistical shows that in every person during his or her life, we eat about 550 kilograms of oil because in many of the things that we eat, it has oil products. The T-shirt I wear has also oil products. And in my life, in average life of a world citizen, we wear 290 kilograms of oil. And we use in my house, the curtain behind me, the computer, keyboard, and all has oil content. Yeah, so in average person's life, we use 3,790 kilograms, almost 4 tons of oil in housing and in daily lives. And then transportation, of course, is also a big amount of oil that we use, not only in the cars we drive, in the buses we take, in aviation, and also in the roads, because all the roads are paved with bitumes. So in transportation, we consume around 3,900 kilograms of oil. So altogether, non-transportation sector oil consumption is bigger than the transportation sector. Non-transportation sector consumes in average person's life 4.6 tons of oil, whereas the transportation sector is only 3.8 tons. So I know that you have very high expectations on EVs because Norway is the most attractive markets for electric vehicles. And EVs are most popular because you provide a lot of subsidies and government support and charging free, parking free, tollways free. And EVs are also very visible in the streets of big Chinese cities. But I come to Chiang Mai very often, a beautiful northern city of Thailand. There is no single EV. I've been visiting this city for last 10 years. And even these days, I travel to the city very often. I have not seen a single EV in this city. Then if you look at the right chart, right part of this slide, today we have about 1.4 billion cars around the world. And there are 5 million EVs. So the share in the car fleet of EVs is only 0.37. And then the Chinese number looks a little better. China has 3.44 million EVs by end of 2018 against the car fleet of 250 million. So the share is 1.4%. And this may be accelerating in the coming years because more and more EVs are stored and the percentage are higher every year. So in 2019, China as a country sold 25.8 million cars, and of which 1.2 million are EVs. So it's 4.6% in the total share. So if you look at this picture, so the most feasible sector to replace oil in transportation is passenger cars, 22%. But then these passenger cars are again dominated by oil-fueled vehicles. Electric vehicles are very tiny. So oil will be there in the foreseeable future, in particular for petrochemicals, oil as a feedstock. So my view is that so long as human beings live in this earth, this planet, we will still need fossil fuels. That's reality that we are living in this world. The next slide. So the last slide I want to share with you is related to my experience working in the International Energy Agency, because I worked there 8 years. So the IEA always say that the energy sector mission is to ensure energy security while protecting the environment and in a most economic efficient way. So energy security means universal access to secure, sustainable, affordable, and reliable supply of energy. So what's happening, as I see, in Europe and also in many parts of this world, in particular in China, now we are shifting from energy security focused mode of operation to environmental security focused mode of operation for the entire energy industry from production to consumption. So environmental security is at the core of energy transition, with the condition that we can ensure energy security and also in a most competitive way. And then I would say that with the development of technologies, innovation, in particular the digital technologies, I see these 7 Ds are driving the global energy transition. The first one is diversification with more and more energy sources and technology means. Second is decarbonization that everybody knows. I'm happy to see young people like Teres, very active in carbon emission fighting, to reduce carbon emissions, to mobilize people. And then digitalization, deregulation of the energy markets to free up the market forces, decentralization, from a more centralized energy supply to a more decentralized along the homes, factories, districts, and democratization. So more and more consumers are given the choice of energy supply. And lastly, depollution, very, very relevant for major parts of Asia. So these things are really, from what I see, driving the global energy transition with environmental security, including climate change as the heart of the energy sector's mission. So before ending, I just want to make one brief comment. Norway is the world leader in clean energy, and Statoil or Equinor is doing a lot. I'm very happy to hear from Anders up there that Equinor is also investing in fusion energy. But to young people like Therese, I would say that you are very fortunate in a very clean and low carbon country already. And then, we need time to accelerate energy transition. There is an urgency for climate protection. At the same time, energy system has its inertia, and it's not easier to change overnight. For example, I say there's no single EV in this beautiful city of Chiang Mai, over 1 million permanent residents here. But then how can you ask people to when the entire electricity system is not reliable? If there is a storm here, there is a power shortage. So you need to build a very strong power system before you can encourage people to shift to EVs. And then, of course, Norway is very, very important in leading the global transition to clean energy, even to reduce the CO2 emissions. And also, I would say that the 2 points for your consideration. One is that the total Norwegian CO2 emission is only 0.35% of the total Chinese emission. So Norway alone cannot save the planet. We need to leverage Norwegian experiences, technologies, know-how, skills to work together with other countries, in particular the big emitters like China, to reduce emissions. So that's the very first point that I want to make. And then second is that if you are living in a country where there is no secure supply of electricity and with no fuel for heating, what would you choose to do? So fossil fuels still has a future in a way that they are abundant, and then they can provide reliable and affordable energy. What we need to do is to reduce the energy consumption and also to the extent possible to make fossil fuels more efficient, and to the extent possible also reduce all the fossil fuel related emissions and keep the fossil fuels for generations and generations come for the chemical feedstock. So fuels should not be burned in the future, but should be processed and produced as products for our long living in this planet. So I will stop here and happy to answer questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Xavier. I don't know if you realized, but you were sort of entering the discussion already without anyone to discuss with. So I was almost jumping in there to stop you, but it's okay. So I think because there are several questions for you actually. So if you promise to answer me shortly on a couple of them, I can bring them forward. Now, the first one is in 1993, the world had 1% of mobile phone coverage. Nowadays, we have almost 100%. Can we ignore the power of exponential growth in energy?
Yeah, Ruth, that's a good question. Let me point out the difference between information technology and energy technology. So information cheats, technology cheats with information, with digital. So digital is non-material. We do not, need a huge amount of materials to support the communication. Yeah. So information by itself, I share information with you, but I still keep the information. Yeah, I can share with 1 million people, but I still keep it. But energy belongs to the material world. There is the conservation, and energy needs to be connected physically so that it can be delivered. So the energy infrastructure is rigid. It involves heavy investment. It has the path dependency. So energy world cannot follow the telecommunication world to change overnight very quickly. So the energy transition will take much longer time than the mobile phone promotion distribution.
Revolution. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm going to save the other questions for you for the panel, and that goes for the experts as well. So we're going to wait with them, put them on hold. So I'm going to say goodbye and thank you for now to you, Xavier Chen.